Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the top 10 Ark Speed Tames. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. At number 10 we have got the Shadowmane, and the reason why this creature is here on the list is because it is just so fast at travelling on ground. It's kind of insane, and you could say, oh yeah, there's loads of creatures like the Thyla which would be great for doing this as well. Well, personally, from my experience, the Shadowmane just does it better, and you'll see it here in just a second, because in this B-roll, for some reason, I did the wrong thing first, and then I actually end up doing the right thing. But either way, this thing can just jump along crazy distances, and it can swim really fast as well, which definitely does benefit to its speed. It is such a quick creature. Obviously, its only main downside being how slow it is to tame, going against its quick nature, of course. But either way, very quick tame, very useful for bosses and all things like that. And it does have natural armor as well, and as you can see there, you can see it swimming in the water, and it is definitely pretty quick in that environment too. Next up, we have got the Deinonychus, and these creatures are super speedy, and although they don't have the jumping abilities of the Deinonychus, I generally think they just tend to be a little bit faster on ground. I know they can't go under the water as well, so you might disagree with me there, but just generally for ground travel, I find these things to be a lot faster, and they can jump around and do all of those things as well. Obviously, they can't jump to the heights of a Shadowmane, but you don't really need that. They also can deal a ton of bleed damage to any kind of creature. Doesn't really credit to their speed, but it does credit to the speed that they kill things, but that is not obviously what this list is about. But if you didn't realise already, Deinonychus is a very quick mount, much faster than something like the Raptor. It has the pack buff as well, capable of doing all kinds of parkour and scaling any kind of vertical surface, wall, anything like that. Shadowmane can't do that actually, but the Shadowmane can go invisible and this thing can't, so you know, there's always trading blows on either side. And yep, this creature is in at number 9 spot. Next up, we have got the Pteranodon, and you definitely can't discredit this thing for its speed, especially as a flyer, and there are some much faster flyers out there. It still definitely is not one of the slow ones like the RG and the Quet and all that. And although I can very much deal and cope with the RG speed, it's one of my favourite creatures actually in the game. You know, this thing does travel at quite a significant amount faster at that default speed, and you do have that spin attack as well. Not just great for PvP raids, but also great for generating a lot of speed, and also if you want to drain stamina fast for some reason, it's really good doing that. But yes, as you can probably tell, it's not a gliding flyer, which obviously would make it just a better, quicker flyer, but still, just for general flying around, it really does get the job done. It flies relatively quickly, and it's tamed from such an early level. The Pteranodon really is one of those creatures where I think everyone should be taming one, probably because of that speed. Next up, we've got the Crystal Wyvern, but also just the normal Wyvern as well. They're pretty much interchangeable. Just think the Crystal Wyverns look nicer for the purpose of the video, so that's why I put them here on the list instead of the normal Wyverns, but the same applies to the normal Wyvern as well. They are really fast creatures going across the map. They're actually like one of the fastest just flyers flying normally, which definitely does make them pretty quick, and is noticeably faster than something like a Pteranodon. It's why the Wyvern trenches are so hard to get into and out of on Scorched Earth, because Wyverns are just so fast. Like, once you have one, you realise the only downside really to that speed is the horrible turning circle which you get on these things. It's like worse than a lorry on a road. It's like, really, why is the turning circle so bad? But you know, at least their speed is pretty decent. Next up, we have got the Griffin, and this creature really just does need to be here, and I'm kind of going to put the Desmodus here as well, another gliding creature, and they are just so quick in the air. Obviously this is with some buff movement speed. None of the other B-roll is with buff movement speed, but this Griffin B-roll is because you know, I just had some extra movement speed on at the time. They don't quite travel at this speed. You can definitely see the game struggling there, but the game does kind of seem to struggle with Griffins anyway, just at normal speeds. It really just showed they go really fast, and it's because of that gliding ability that they travel with such speed. If the gliding ability didn't exist for this creature, then the Wyvern would be a faster option, but because of that gliding ability, the Griffin is able to fly at much faster speeds, and also they're pretty heavy damage dealers as well, making them even better for a fast creature, as they're fast and get around, and they can deal tons of damage as well. Really amazing creature. Next up, we've got the Snow Owl, and I just feel like this deserves it to be in a league ahead, although maybe technically it might not be any faster than the Griffin or the Desmodus. I'm pretty sure it is, and at least to me, when riding around on it, it feels faster and snappier to me than the Griffin and the Crystal, not the Crystal Wyvern, the Desmodus. And obviously this is going to look slower, but you know that Griffin was heavily buffed in movement speed, and I am kind of very gently taking it. The whole thing just feels a lot smoother on something like the Snow Owl, and it just feels like a more agile creature to ride around on. It also just feels a bit maneuverable. Maybe I got it wrong on the speed front here, but still, personally, for me, I think it's faster. But if I really have made a mistake on that one, then comment that below, and my opinions will probably change after the making of this video. Obviously, they're not just used for speed, they have that kind of heat-seeking ability, which makes them pretty good for finding anything that you might want, players or just small creatures or anything like that. And obviously they can heal up creatures as well by freezing them. That's why I want those stamina on a creature like this. As you know, the more stamina you have, the longer you can heal a creature up for, not just so you can fly over longer distances. Next up, we have got the Rock Drake, and this creature really does deserve to be here. The Rock Drake has an immensely fast speed, and it is a glider as well. Definitely faster than all the other creatures we have mentioned so far, and it is really quick, speedy, and agile on the land too, which makes this an even better creature for that speed. And although some people are probably going to expect the Galley to be on this list, there is going to be no Gallimimus on this list coming up, and this thing completely demolishes the Gallimimus in general speed. Sorry Galley fans, or just general Syntac fans, because they usually tend to be correlated because of Syntac and Galleys. Yeah, you're not going to get the Galley in this video, but I guess you got a quick honourable mention in the number 4 spot, which is the Rock Drake, although I would definitely have not put it this high if it was on the list. Maybe chuck it in at number 10 or something like that, but the Shadowmane is still a lot faster than something like the Galley, and obviously it can travel over much longer distances because of that jumping ability, and it can obviously swim a lot faster too. Whereas with the Rock Drake, it can just dart from rock to rock and just glide incredible speeds, and you know, its walking pace isn't too bad either. In at the number 3 spot, we have got the Managama, and there is no lie that the Managama is one of the fastest creatures in the game that is Ark. These creatures can just travel with such speed. It is sort of insane how fast they can actually go, and I'm always very shocked every time I use one of these. And also, I do want to give a quick mention to the gas bags as well, as you can get some pretty reasonable speed with that creature as well, although I wouldn't put it in number 3 spots. For you gas bag speed lovers, that is another pretty fast Ark speed tame as well, which you should probably look into if you're looking for some fast tames. You just saw 2 of them there as that Managama just went by them. And this creature isn't just used for speed, it can also freeze loads of creatures as well, which obviously makes it extremely OP, has been nerfed since release. And the stamina drain isn't too bad either, which kind of matters for a fast creature. Obviously it's not going to demote its fastness, but it can be even faster if it has more stamina, because it can be fast over longer distances. Therefore, in the grand scheme of time, it just is generally a faster creature, which obviously is going to make it a faster creature, because you get the maths, don't you? Just got stuck in the wall there. Proof that Ark is a game with no bugs and glitches whatsoever. In at number 2, we have got the Maywing. Makes sense why this thing is here, to be honest. It's just a really fast, quick glider. Obviously that really helps its benefits. Probably the fastest one out there. It can skim over the top of water, really fast under the water as well, which definitely plays a huge benefit to this thing. And I just generally really love and enjoy this creature for its speed. Now, before we get into the number 1 spot, we do really need to talk about some honorable mentions that haven't made the list. Firstly, I do want to talk about the Rhino Ganatha. That creature does actually pack some pretty decent speed, maybe some which you wouldn't expect from its size. Also, the Tropiognathus and Astrodelphis need to be mentioned on this list as well, as they can absolutely rip through the map with their jetpack-like saddles. And actually, you might even consider putting them in at number 1 once you hear what I've got there. But personally, just for general use and speed, I've kind of combined it a bit there. I think that creature is better suited. So with that, let's just get into the number 1 spot. And in at number 1, we have got the Bloodstalker. And I would definitely say this is a controversial one for speed. Yes, it does take quite a lot of learning to really get it up there. And in this B-roll, absolutely terrible at flying. I've that's improved a lot more since then, and I didn't really use that as much as a water creature back then. Didn't even show it underwater in this B-roll, but is uncontested in my opinion for underwater travel. It is so good for all of that. I really do urge you to try it, and obviously you can see the aggros of all the creatures as well, which makes it pretty great for underwater exploration. Get away from everything really quickly. Surfacing is easy. Like, the maneuverability of this thing is absolutely insane. Everyone should at least try this out one time in their general Ark playing, and obviously you can just swing so quickly from place to place. Obviously this is really not a great demonstration of Bloodstalker flying, but you can really gather some huge speed with these things, especially on the original biome, on the original map that they're intended for. Obviously, you know, you're not going to be in that place all the time, but it doesn't matter. They can still pack loads of speed outside of it, and that is why I have put the Bloodstalker in at number 1. What are the top 10 worst Ark creatures? So in at number 10, I'm going to put any fish trap dino, that being the coelacanth, the saber-toothed salmon, trilobites, or whatever you're going to put in a fish trap. And the reason why I'm putting them at the number 10 spot instead of the number 1 spot, which I think I did in the other video, is simply because when you think of the Shadowmane as a concept on the whole, I think these do have a slight use, but still as creatures they are literally useless when you take them out of the fish trap. But I think still that Shadowmane use does add enough merit to them that, you know, they at least deserve to be slightly higher up on the list than maybe some of the other creatures here. So next up in at number 9, we have got the Archaeopteryx, and I know a few of you like this creature, but I think the Cinemacrops completely defeats the point of the Archaeopteryx and the glide suit on AB 2. I feel like if it was a creature that you could put on your back and you didn't need to carry the whole time, it would be way more viable as a creature, but I feel like it doesn't really work in the context that it's in. And again, a creature like a Pteranodon or something like that is really not much more effort, and frankly is less effort to take around than an Archaeopteryx, so I don't really see a point in it. Its taming method is weird too, and on top of all of that as well, it spawns in the redwoods, and who really does go to the redwoods by will? Next up, I've decided to put the Microraptor. A few of you like this creature for its ability to knock players off mounts, but still I think taming this thing and getting all that done is just such a pain, and this isn't something which I'm really going to need to use. Dimorphodons are great for knocking health off players, and you can always use a creature like a Desmodus to pick someone off the mount and finish them off like that. I feel like, yes, this might have been useful, you know, back in the days, but now with all of the new creatures that we've got, I don't really think it's a viable solution whatsoever. You could possibly say in ASA, considering not all the maps are out yet, but I still think the point stands where that should not be a viable solution. And in my opinion, there are much better solutions out there on things that you can do to actually use, you know, a creature that is going to damage just the player on a mount rather than just the mount. Dimorphodons, like I said earlier, but the Desmodus is a great shout too. Coming in at number 7, we have got the Compy Compsognathus, whichever one you want to call it. I'm sure most of you call it Compies, but I just added that segment in there because why not? Now, the Compy can only be tamed with prime meat, which already makes it even more useless than it ever was before. I think you can tame it with mutton as well, but the fact that you can't tame it with basic meat, and it is just an annoying tame that frankly you don't even want around, in my opinion, sort of is quite stupid, and I'm not down for Compy taming. If you like the Compy, I'm by no means stopping you from using it, but it really is not my creature by any means. It is just a small annoying critter to me, and I really can't get any use out of it. Again, anything that uses a Compy in, I would probably use a Deinonychus. It really is the go-to sort of small creature for doing those tasks. Next up, we have got the Troodon, and the reason why this is here is just because of the purely unnecessary taming method. The fact is, the Troodon is an absolutely terrible creature to tame, and I don't think any of you should be taming it, apart from, you know, maybe if you get an achievement of just taming all the Ark creatures, or you just want to fill up all of the, whatever you're filling up. Either way, the Troodon is not worth it in my opinion. There's no point wasting baby dinos or baby gigas or your own live creatures for a Troodon, because once tamed, they're not really that useful. It's cool in concept and in thought, but I don't really think it holds up in the grand scheme of things. I think it is an absolutely useless creature. Again, you can feel free to disagree with me, and you can always chuck your opinions down in the comments below, but they are just my thoughts. So halfway through now, and we have got the lamprey, and although this can protect you from radiation, it still is not your best bet. A hazmat suit is going to be a lot better in the long run, and I just don't think it's worth it. You'll barely even use this thing unless maybe you're on AB, but still I don't think it is a viable solution. It isn't really a viable creature for me to be taming. I think it is an absolute waste of your time, and the ability isn't too useful as it's already taken out by another piece of armor, and that in my opinion is still easier to get than a lamprey. It can work in some positions, but still I think it is not really a great creature, and in all fact it doesn't really need to be in the game at all. At number 4, probably not controversially, we've got the Liopleurodon. All this does is be your tame for 30 minutes, requires giant bee honey to tame, and gives you potential for better ocean loot, and for me that's sort of crazy. I don't see the point in that, because Ark loot as it is sort of dead anyway, and all the novelty is gone because you can't just keep the tame anyway. If it was a tame that you could just keep, then that would make way more sense, but it isn't, and the gains really aren't that strong in my opinion, and I do not think it is worth having a Liopleurodon on your side whatsoever. They are not worth the tame in my opinion. Please do not go out of the way to tame yourself a Liopleurodon unless obviously you're taming all the Ark creatures out there. Coming in at number 3, we have got the Aranio, and in my opinion I have to put this thing here. A lot of Ark mobile players love it, but this is not an Ark mobile list. Sorry to you mobile players, but I'll probably be doing one of those soon, especially around the release of whatever the new Ark mobile thing that has been released comes out, because the Aranio sort of has the ability to not have any of the cave creatures aggro to. Not sure if it does that in normal Ark anyway, but still I wouldn't see it as a viable solution, and I don't really like taming them. While a cool concept again with that ability, not sure if it's on the PC or Xbox versions, that might be a mobile exclusive. It still wouldn't be the creature for me, as I just prepare and get some good weapons, because you still basically could get into a cave anyway to tame that Aranio, and they're a passive tame on top of all of that, and not particularly strong either. You're still going to get off them to get the artifacts too, so that could prove a bit fatal in some scenarios. So in my opinion, they're really not the creature to go for, but you could maybe argue it in some scenarios, but I'm still going to put them very low on the list. In number 2, we've got the Onyx, perhaps the most useless, cave creature out there. That's the wrong list. That's a list for later. Either way, the Onyx is just the bat that no one really likes, that gives you mega rabies in a cave, and you can tame it for some reason. Don't know why, but you can tame it. It's like if the Titanomira was tameable. It really has no use whatsoever. There is no point in you taming this thing. It is a waste of your time. It is awkward and a pain to tame. Again, the only reason comes down to if you want to tame every Ark creature in the game to get the achievement. Otherwise, there is absolutely no point of doing this at all. You really should not be wasting your time with this, and I do actually mean this with maybe some force. Don't do it unless you're getting the achievement. Trust me, it's not worth it. If you're a beginner and this is something you want to tame the right kind of bat. Tame the Desmodus. And in at number 1 is the Pyromane. Now, this might be a controversial one for many, but really, I hate the pay-to-winness of this creature. While it's only an ASA exclusive, there is a lot that could be far better with this creature. Firstly, who's paying for an actual creature in Ark? It is just so stupid. I hate what Snail Games has done with ASA. And for PvP players, essentially, if you don't have it, you're screwed, really. And this is why I have to put it in as the worst creature. Not because, it's the least useful or it doesn't have a use or whatever. It's just because it is an absolutely stupid game design choice, and I hate what Snail Games has done with the game, and obviously this creature being introduced, I think it is pointless. It should not be here, and it is the worst Ark creature to date, and I don't think anything can really top it in my opinion. And give it up for our patrons Ekaterina Puchkova and Karina Thorne, Dominic Macy, sorry about that name, and everyone else that's on this list. All the people I've mentioned are paid members, and if you feel like that's something you want a shout out at the end of the video, go join the Patreon or become a paid YouTube member.